All of the tech, none of the nonsense. This is a 2025 F-150 Lightning Flash, and this truck has a giant center screen, Pro Power on board, extended battery, BlueCruise tech. But let me tell you what it doesn't have. It doesn't have massaging seats, and it sure as heck does not have a $100,000 price tag with it. And this is what Outsider Reviews is all about. Hey everybody, my name is Pat, military veteran, now turned YouTuber, and we got Panna behind the camera, my lovely wife. Thank you very much for watching this video. And as I've mentioned, 2025 Ford F-150 Lightning, but the Flash trim. I was actually given a choice of which trim I wanted for this, and I picked the Flash because as a buyer, that's within my price range, and it's kind of one of the vehicles I would be shopping for if I was shopping for an electric vehicle, because it is in that sweet spot. It's got the extended battery range. We're talking 123 kilowatt size battery, giving you that 300-mile threshold that I think a lot of people are kind of aiming for, which is over 500 kilometers of range for us here in Canada. But it still has a lot of the tech, a lot of the usable stuff that I would love to be able to have, but I can't quite afford those upper trim like the Platinums and such. So this is where it's at. And it still has that traditional Lightning look, right? It's an F-150 that got turned into an electric vehicle. Plain and simple. When you're looking at the size, interiors and stuff, it's really hard to tell the difference. First key point is obviously the light bar and the lack of a grill in front of there, but you also have nothing under the hood except for a large compartment. Now there's a button right here. I can open it with the key fob as well, and I want to show you the key fob while that's opening, because it does take a few seconds to open. Let's see if a camera can pick up the key fob here. And one noticeable absence from what I get from, if you look at a Chevrolet key fob, is there's no remote start. So that has to be done through the app. I am not too keen on that, but I can open the front with that, and that opens up to 14 cubic feet of space. Lots of usable space, even room underneath that for cargo, like your cables, your charging cable. And it does, if you have a water, if you pack this up with ice and you want to put it as a cooler, that does drain down there, which is pretty key. Another useful feature on this side of things is it's got more plugs than my bedroom does. It's got 4 120 volt outlet. Crazy. And you just turn them on like this. You got USB-A and USB-C. Basically it can power anything you practically want that will fit in a regular outlet, and it still has some tie down, so very useful feature over here. And to close it, again, just press of a button. It's actually the biggest frunk in this segment, so that's definitely important. So get a winner right here for the frunk space. Now, as I've mentioned, the battery size, I've also didn't mention that this has the upgraded motor, so you're getting a 580 horsepower, 775 pound-feet of torque, capable of towing 10,000 pounds with the max tow package, and again with the range 300 miles or 515 kilometers. 0 to 60 time is 4 seconds. That is really fast for a vehicle this size. Moving off to the side here, right away we see those big old wheels, 275/60 R20, so 20-inch rims. Cool design, that's definitely fine with me. And it's got Goodyear Wrangler territory, HT, not AT, so highway territory, highway terrain, not all terrain. So this is, you see the snow around? This is not rated for that. It's mud and snow, but not three-peak, not snowflake rated. So technically these are not the correct tires for this time of year, but this is the first week of November, folks, that we're filming this. So we do get snow pretty early here. And basically the compound just gets hard when it drops down below 7 degrees Celsius, so that makes it a little bit harder to get grip. Charging port, and where it sees that it says Flash, I love the blue accent going on here on the black. Definitely looks good. And open this up, manual, which I love, and we have CCS, capable of charging 150 kilowatt charging speed. So if you go DC fast charging, I don't know, 10 to 80% should be about 42 minutes. That's basically my estimates of what they should give you. I think they give you a 15 to 80% in 38 minutes, I think is what they say. We have 360-degree camera here, a nice size mirror for towing. I got approach, so basically put my hand in here and unlocks, press this little button, it locks up. So not power folding mirrors as you see here. You got running boards here to make it quick and easy access, even though the ground clearance is a little bit lower. It's around like 8 inches of ground clearance compared to the gas version, so it is lower. I was always looking at these vehicles like they seem lower than the gas version. They are, so a little bit lowered. And suspension, you're obviously not going to see a solid axle suspension as you move to the back here. It's independent suspension on all four wheels, and that's because, you know, that makes more sense for electric vehicle because they're much heavier, and the fact that, well, it's dual motors and stuff, probably configuration and all that stuff. I'm an outsider, I'm not an insider. I'm not going to dive too much into that, but independent suspension. I'll talk about the ride quality once I'm inside driving. Lightning badge. And now we're going to go in the back. In the back end, nothing really different from a regular traditional F-150, as stamped in the back here. I've mentioned the towing capability, so 10,000 pounds with the Max 4K package. Otherwise, I believe it's 7,700 pounds. We have a non-dampened tailgate, so brace yourself, folks. Gets to you, but I am quite okay with it. It opens up a 5.5-foot bed, spray-in bed liner. I like that a lot of these niceties are included, especially the Pro onboard power. So I do have a 240 volt here and 4 times 120 volt, and you can basically use this as a generator to power your house in case of emergencies. Also, you have some measuring increments here that you can use. Overall, this has 2,000 pounds of payload, and I forgot to mention that the front trunk actually has a payload rating as well, which is 400 pounds. So that's a lot. And we obviously have the stair access with the railing, making it quite easy for somebody like me with knee problems and flexibility issues to just be out back here and knowing that I'm not gonna break the bank because I'm nowhere near 2,000 pounds of payload. That's a lot, but I actually belong in there, so we're gonna go check out how comfortable the interior is now. Now, as I open the back door, you know what? They didn't do a bad job. Look at this door. It still utilizes some fabric other than plastic. Fantastic. I have a metallic piece here. It kind of looks like a black grayish marble slab and a cup holder, as well as a B&O sound system included. So an 8-speaker B&O sound system. A lot of storage within this door as a whole. So they did a really good job, even considering that this is, you know, this is still a budget vehicle. It's nowhere near the top trim, right? It's right above the Pro trim here. We have a 60-40 split here for the seats, and yes, they do go up completely, and it's pretty easy. You just lift the tab, they go up, and it reveals a pretty much completely flat floor, giving you a nice usable flat floor surface. And the reason why that matters to me anyways, if I was to buy an electric pickup truck, it's not because I need it for towing all the time. It's because I want something with interior comfort and enough room in the back that if I slap a tonneau cover over there, it can fit my wife's luggage and stuff when we go see the family. And that over here, what I would do is I would raise these seats, revealing a complete flat floor, enough room for my dogs. And this vehicle gives you that room that you need. As I step in, close the door, 43 inches of legroom, 43.6 inches of legroom is ginormous. It's a lot of space. Even as a 5'9" individual like myself, I still have like almost a foot left of space on my headroom. As far as the leatherette interior, gray is obviously not my favorite color, but it's probably the easiest to maintain, which is definitely appeals to me. I also have more cup holders here, USB-Cs ×2, and 120 volt outlets. This vehicle has more outlets than my house, almost. And I have my own ventilation. Obviously, pickup trucks don't have like tri-zone ventilation, nor would you need it. It's just got so much space for the whole family. And essentially, my son can sit here and raise these seats up, and I could have room for my dogs and whatever luggage I can fit anywhere between the back and the front trunk. Makes it that family trips are feasible. And I'm still driving a pickup truck, which is kind of cool. All right, let's go in the front. Behind the wheel of the F-150 Lightning Flash. Nice, it's an F-150. There you go, there's my review. No, I'm just kidding. The thing I noticed at first is I was looking for the traditional BlueCruise sensors, because the last F-150 I drove, I think it was a 2024. They're actually over here and over there. So that's kind of cool, that way they moved it out of sight and out of line while still being operational. Speaking of BlueCruise, all your advanced cruise controls over here works great. I know it's a $50 subscription per month, but still, I think it becomes 90 days for free. And right now, there might be a special for 1 full year for free of BlueCruise. You'll love it if you drive a lot of long distance. Buttons, good to go. Big old steering wheel, truck-like. No changes here to an F-150. Digital screen, you can see that my usage, I've done 630 kilometers of driving thus far. One thing I noticed when I drive, initially when I left Montreal to come to Quebec City, the temperature was around 5 degrees Celsius, a little bit cold. HVAC was set around 22 degrees Celsius. This is your HVAC control. And my range equated up to, I got 360 kilometers of range because I was doing mostly highway driving. And since this has the aerodynamics of a brick, the faster you go, I was going about 70 miles per hour or 120. And the faster you go, the more range is going to drain. And you factor in, this does have a heat pump, and which is great, but it can only do so much. So it was about 360 kilometers of range from 100% at 5 degrees Celsius. Take that for what it's worth. 15-inch display right here. That is something you used to have to go up on trims to get. Now it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, something that the competitors, I'm talking about the Chevrolet Silverado EV work truck, of course, doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And one thing I found interesting is I was using Android Auto, and the navigation was keeping in mind what my battery was. So when I went to Google, you can see it predicts if I was to go to the local hospital, it would be 43-minute drive, 41 kilometers, and I would arrive with 87% of battery. And one thing that this truck does extremely well is your range prediction. So right now I'm at 95%. 334 kilometers. So that is one thing that I find really refreshing, because on my Chevrolet EV, it will give me a number which it will not attain. This has a way better prediction of how your range is going to be, and you could almost take that to the bank. Obviously, your driving habits is going to factor in if you decide to race another truck, if you decide to go faster than usual. These kind of things factor in, but it's definitely factoring in the weather, because at 95% on a summer day, I would definitely have more than 344 kilometers of range. So I like this. This is a no BS attitude, and that's what I'm all about. Just don't bullshit me. Tell me what the real figure is going to be so I can actually plan my trips. And again, Google, it's not even the built-in. This is off Android Auto, and it still has my range projection. I didn't know about that, and it's the first time I noticed that. Again, when you go here, that's something I'm not too fond about. Drive modes has to be done via the screen. I would like a physical buttons for drive modes, but you got normal, sport, tow haul, off-road, and slippery. And then this is where you activate and deactivate your one-pedal drive. The one-pedal drive is tuned very well, especially me coming from a Chevrolet EV. It's very much in line with how those vehicle operates as well. So if you're transferring over, it's going to seem very familiar. The HVAC controls I find pretty good. Sometimes they're a little bit laggy. I like the wheel though. that's cool. I wish there would just be a dedicated knob for HVAC, and then you have dual climate zone control, which is good. Here's one thing I like is this, and you can volume off, volume on. There we go. Let's turn it off. So then that's something that in my, again, Chevrolet AV, it has a wheel in the screen, kind of like this. It's in the top corner, but it doesn't have the ability to press in the middle of it to mute the music. I like this feature. I know it's kind of these stupid little things that I'm pointing out, but they're not stupid to me. They kind of matter. Here, you'll see the notable absence of a wireless charger. I do have USB-A, USB-C, and I do have a little carpet. This does look kind of cheap, though. This feels kind of cheap. I would have preferred a rubber insert there that can be taken out. I like that you can take it out. And I like that it's soft, but it does give me a vibe that it's a little bit cheap. Here is where I usually put my device. This is great. And then you can fold this down and have a flat surface, but I don't have the flip over. So obviously it's something you can add as an option to have the workstation that the Ford gives you. But yeah, personally, I like a column shifter on my electric pickup trucks as opposed to this. Obviously this, if you're an F-150 guy, this is what you know, and this is what is familiar, which is fine. Center console is really big. Look at all this space. It's a lot of space, and I do have 2 USB-C connections in there as well. You're not gonna be running out of plugs or outlets or USB-C connection in this truck, because look, even here, another 120 volt outlet and 12 volt. I don't know, many people use 12 volts. Comments below if you guys do, but dual compartments here. Push the button, here it is. And then we have a regular standard glove box here with registrations and all. Overall, this is really nice. This is comfortable. I like these cup holders back here as well. I like that we could use a little bit more. I wish there was a wireless charger. That's kind of like the one feature, the one thing I wish the flash trim would have, and is a built-in wireless charger. But you can't have it all when you're looking in this budget. I understand that. It's just you're giving me so much in this vehicle that, you know, I kind of just want a little bit more. And I think what I found out is that job one for 2025, so they were built in 2024, some of them originally had wireless charger. I'd like you to comment below if you're an owner of job one flash vehicles where you did get a wireless charger. You lucky bastards, you. But overall, very comfortable. I like this. This actually has a little bit more shoulder room than a Chevrolet Silverado EV, which I'm very thankful for. And everything else is just, you know what? I don't need more. I wouldn't ask more. It's still soft. It's still good. It still feels great. Why would you need to go higher up in trims other than a wireless charger? Let's take it for a drive. Let's go for a drive. Okay, so given the current environmental circumstances, the fact that there's already snow on the ground, and the fact that these tires are only rated by snow, I'm not kicking in sports mode. Really, there's no need. You have so much horsepower and torque here. 580 horsepower and 775 pound-feet of torque in the Lightning Flash. It's gonna go plenty fast. I'm in normal mode right now, and just God. It's enough to kick you in the back of your seat. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, like if you were to throw it in sports mode and stuff. It's a big truck moving at a really fast speed. And personally, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And the individual suspension, the way it rides, right now I'm on a very bumpy road. And the independent suspension, it just doesn't have that bounce that solid axle suspension would, and it's pretty nice. And even though you see a lot of movement, trust me, there's no suspension that you wouldn't see movement like that. Perhaps maybe the Fox Live suspension on a Raptor can handle that better, but still the independent suspension is doing a pretty good job. Body roll is still a truck. Why would you be racing this around corners? I am not. I'm not here to talk more about the functionality of it, of daily life, right? That's what Outsiders Reviews is more about. I don't really do high performance cars, drag races and all that stuff. I'm just one guy. So, but what I do is just a lot of daily driving. By the time I turn this vehicle in, I'm going to be about 1,000 kilometers of driving time, which actually I'm turning it in tomorrow. We're Sunday right now, and I always turn them in on Mondays unless it's a holiday. The thing that's noticeable obviously is the output, the torque, the power output, the smooth acceleration, the suspension. These are all better in my opinion than a regular gas F-150, as well as how quiet it is, because you don't have that engine rumble noise, right? So it's extremely quiet. There's no noise, vibration, or harshness to be felt. This vehicle still feels like one of those premium vehicles that you would buy. It just is so fluid as far as acceleration. It is a lot of fun. And because of these snowy temperatures, one thing I didn't notice as I'm looking at the drive modes here is if I go in slippery mode, it will kick off the one pedal drive, and rightfully so, because if you are somebody who's not used to driving in slippery weather and you want to throw it on slippery mode, you shouldn't have one pedal drive, because you can tend to panic, lift your foot off the accelerator, and that could potentially throw the vehicle into an uncontrolled skid. And because it's trying to stop at probably a faster rate than you should on a slippery surface, which will means ABS is going to kick in, it's going to start sliding. It's no bueno. For myself, because I drive an electric vehicle all the time, and because it's literally slippery here like 6 months out of the year, because we're like the first week of November and we got snow already, I'm very used to it, and I'm comfortable leaving the one pedal drive. Also going to manage the accelerator as well, just not make it as aggressive, which is what you want. You want slow, controlled acceleration, slow and controlled stopping as well when you're in slippery mode. So it's good that they do that, because my Chevrolet AV does not throw off one pedal drive when I throw it in slip mode. It does tame the acceleration. So there's some of the differences I'm noticing from being an owner of a Chevrolet Equinox EV. From one platform to another, obviously from one manufacturer to another, all EVs are not made the same. However, I will point out, I'll address the 360 kilometers of range that I had. I think it was like 5 degrees Celsius. So that's cold, because cabin temperature is set between 20 and 22. Sometimes I fluctuate depending if I get hot or not, depending on the sun. Even though there's no sunroof in this vehicle, I don't really need one. I know some people like to have panoramic sunroof. This is a nice truck. It's a purpose-built truck, and sunroof just, to me, is just extra. It's just a little extra that I'd rather have all the tech, the BlueCruise, the screen and everything, and the extended battery than worry so much about a sunroof. But as I was saying, so the heater's on. So this does have a heat pump, and the heater's on working the whole drive. That drains the battery pretty fast. Also, the F-150, it's built like a regular F-150. It's got the aerodynamics of a brick. So the faster you go, which I was going, left lane speed on the highway, not right lane speed on the highway. So you got to consider that, and that's all those factors are going to affect the range. If I'm not doing highway driving and I'm not going at 70 miles an hour, then that's going to affect your range quite a bit. So no, it's not 360 kilometers of range for your everyday errands that you're going to be doing, because there's a lot of stop and go. There's different kind of roads, rural roads, different kind of speeds. You're not going 70 miles an hour or 120 the whole way. All these factors factor in. So when you look, one thing that Ford does better than General Motors is the prediction on the range. So it calculates what your economy is, how many kilowatts you use per 100 kilometers. I just let the vehicle idle quite a bit. Before that, I was at 33 kilowatts per 100 kilometers. Yeah, it's still on the high side, but the predictive range, if it tells you you have 303 kilometers left with 80% or something like that, it's pretty darn accurate. It's pretty close to what it's going to be when you're driving. So that's one thing that it definitely does better than my General Motors electric vehicle, is predicting what my range is going to be at that time that I'm driving in. Now let's get into some of the things that are nice and different from other EVs as far as the F-150 Lightning. As I'm driving it, I like that there's a switch So a knob for light control as opposed to going via the screen. I don't like that the drive modes are still via the screen. I'd like those to be some buttons on the steering wheel. And I definitely am okay with the HVAC controls, but I would appreciate if there were more controls and buttons and knobs below this 15-inch screen, because I like a combination of both. I find that it takes more time looking away from the road. When there's a screen, I have to be careful where I'm pressing and is it working, as opposed to if I have a knob, I don't have to look. I feel it, I'm like, okay, crank it up. Or if it's Google built in, I can say like, hey Google, set cabin temperature to 21 degrees, and that would work just fine. I do have a voice command here, so I can still do that. I just think that some more physical controls for the HVAC would make driving a little bit more pleasant. And lastly, let's speak of the fact that this is equipped with BlueCruise. In this price, I think that's a great deal. It's $73,000 as I was shopping here in Canada. $73,000, and I have BlueCruise capabilities. So I think it's 3 months free, but I think you can have a promo up to 1 year free of BlueCruise. Comment below what it is in your area. But I love BlueCruise because it's hands-free, level 2 driving assist. You're on the highway and you're just cruising around. So it's gonna be pretty crazy, in my opinion, to have that at this price range. And I think we're gonna start seeing that more and more. This is only gonna push other brands to start offering their level 2 driving assist at a lower price point. So I love what Ford is doing here, and BlueCruise definitely makes traveling worry-free, in my opinion. It just makes it so much easier. And overall, the driving experience is extremely nice. The range is good because you have the extended battery. You got to compare to obviously the other Fords that you have and the other competition. Cold weather is going to affect everybody. Aerodynamics is going to affect every single pickup truck you're shopping for. And the capabilities are there. The driving, the smoothness, and my wife was quite pleased. Just like, this is really nice. We can definitely take this on a family road trip. And the fact that you're still driving a truck that on the exterior just looks like a regular truck definitely has its appeal. You're not standing out as much, and not everybody wants to stand out. But that's pretty much it for the driving experience. I'm gonna go back to my spot here. The Lightning, my conclusion about it. The flash trim, more importantly. I love what Ford did with this particular trim, all right? I have different opinions about all their other trims, but I love where this sits because I'm shopping. I'm in the market. I'm not even kidding you guys. I'm actually in the market to add another EV to the home fleet there. And I'm shopping I was looking at the Silverado EV work truck. Standard range battery, it's not that much. Extended range battery is quite a lot of range. The Ford Flash, I would say, competes with those, but they slotted it right in between those two. Right in the sweet spot for range, above 500 kilometers, or it's 300 miles in the US. And that, I think, is the sweet spot for a lot of people, while still offering basically everything else that these other guys offer and more. Why? Because way more horsepower and torque here. This is a more performance machine. It drives really fast, as I was mentioning. It's a really fast vehicle. So you have the range, you have the speed. Now let's talk a little bit about price. Starts at $73,000 Canadian. If I'm looking at the work truck, $68,000, level 1, standard range. And if I'm looking at this Silverado EV work truck, extended range, $79,000. And this one is $73,000. So it's very, very appealing for a shopper like myself, especially given that those other options, you cannot have Super Cruise with them. It's not part of the deal. You would have to go up. So what they did is something that their competitors are not doing, is giving you that availability to all the tech, even in this price range. I really don't have much bad things to say about this truck. I absolutely love it. Wireless charger would be nice, but the other two don't have wireless charger either. So there's that. And you know what? The power of it can be quite addictive. It is a lot of fun. Obviously, a little bit restricted in these kind of weathers. You shouldn't be like accelerating using that 700 and something pounds-feet of torque in icy, slippery condition. But I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say in the comment. If you're shopping around in the same segment that I currently am, what are the reasons why you would not consider the Lightning Flash? Because I'm literally, legitimately interested on hearing about this. Sure, I'd like to have the range of the extended battery that Silverado offers, but do I need it? Charging could be faster. The other two do give you a faster DC fast charging, but 90% of my charging is done at home anyways, and that's becomes irrelevant at that point. It's just for that family road trip that I would take every now and then. Something for you guys to think about, and something that I had to change my mindset originally when I bought my first EV is, why am I shopping for a vehicle for the one trip a year that I'm taking, where I'm like, oh, you know, it'd be really nice to have the gas car for that one trip per year. So I changed my mindset, shop for a vehicle for my everyday life. This fits the bill. Am I gonna buy it? I don't know yet. I'm still shopping around. But I'd like to know what your input is. I'd like to thank you very much for watching Outsider Reviews. I'd like to thank my wife again for filming, because it is cold, and she gets colder than I am because she's a lot more tiny, and for my son to not be too bored while we're filming. See you guys in the next one.